Hello and welcome to the monthly interview program that features outstanding members of the mineral community, including collectors, dealers, artists, photographers, and more. We aim to shine a light on the lesser-known mineral people that certainly deserve to be shown. This program is presented by the Young Mineral Collectors. I'm your host, Matthew Parshchikov from Cologne, Germany, and this is Under the Radar. Hello everyone, welcome back to the show. Today we have a long-time calcite collector and very knowledgeable, wise man. He's from the US and he has faced a new problem. He accumulated over 80,000 specimens and has now to somehow decollect them. And he's going to talk about how he's going to do that and what drives his passion for collecting minerals in general. Please welcome our guest, Johan Maertens. Hey, Johan, how are you
Hey, I'm
doing?
wonderful. Good to see you, Matthew.
It's my pleasure. Finally, someone who collects something very so specific and knows so much to share to the mineral world, to the young people. Great.
No, that's good. Being on under the radar is such a refreshing experience. Your question and answer format really brings out authentic, I would say, thoughtful conversations.
Yes.
And I love how you shine a spotlight on a new generation of mineral enthusiasts.
Oh, thank you.
I
Thank you.
think there is something energizing about the passion of these young people and these emerging collectors that you talk to, and it's contagious. Your work is more than just the amazing pictures that you take, right? You make stunning pictures, but I think through your interviews, you give voice to people who are shaping at when they're young, their own unique paths in this world of minerals and crystals. And I would say congratulations, on building not just a wonderful photography career, but also a wonderful informative interviewing career. And you're truly capturing the spirit of this young community. So it's an honor to be here.
Wow. Thank you so much for this long compliment. I wasn't ready for that. I was just yeah, some tears came because it means so much to
That's
me.
okay.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy that you enjoy it and that it's the purpose of this interview series is coming to life and it's making sense. So I'm very happy. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's start where I always start. How did you get into mineral collecting?
Well, that's a little story. Let me see if I can share a
Many
screen
times I
here. Right,
feel like
I'm Harry Potter, right? I'm this magic person, and I think I'm a good fit for under the radar because I live like Harry Potter under the stairs, and I live along people that I will call the Muggles. The mineral unaware group, right? So. Uh, for us, minerals are magic. We go find them. We see certain aspects in there in what they are. Now, I'm an introvert at heart, right? So I'm happy when I'm totally immersed in my minerals. I don't need people, and contrary to the other people, where minerals are far off their radar. For me, it's part of the magic, right? Currently, I call myself, a citizen scientist. I live in Ohio in the United States, and I do have a long passion for collecting minerals nowadays, especially calcite. And the interest began just like I think everybody, in your childhood. I was amazed about nature. I grew up very close to woods, and my parents nurtured, my interest for nature, for my outdoors types of activities. And I started as a young person, with aquariums. I had carnivorous fish, and I had to collect
Ooh.
live food twice a week, and I would venture all over to collect insects and all the other stuff that I could give to my animals. And I got into terrariums and reptiles, and you can imagine that having all that animal husbandry in the house, it brings smells. Some of the animals would not stay in their enclosure, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
but my parents, they put up with it, and um, we were also pretty close to the North Sea, so I was a little bit into collecting shells that I could find on the shore. But the breakthrough came when I did a visit to some cousins, and they had a shell collection, but they did not just have a bunch of shells. They had everything organized. They had everything labeled. Everything was structured in in certain categories, and they also kept documentation, and they learned about the shells. So early on, these people inspired with me that collecting is not just gathering objects, but it's also understanding, organizing, and recording their significance. So as I grew older, I went to college. I no longer had the time to take care of the animals. They all left the house, and at that time too, I was doing travels with my parents, and we were going through the mountains, and I picked up some dolomite and calcite in the Dolomites, and I just stuck with that. And my mother was very happy. No more the smell of stinky shells that I was cooking, no more animals that were running around. She was appreciative that I had and that I would stuck to minerals. So it kind of grew that way. And then where I lived, you know, there were no collectible crystals. There was all marine deposits and glacial deposits, hundreds of meters thick. There was not much out there, but when they were doing construction in all that type of material, they would find concretions, they would find fossils and pieces of rock that had concretions and that had some small minerals in that too. So that just reinforced the whole message. And for the rest of my life, I stuck with it.
Wow, great. Fantastic start, I think.
Mhm.
And so when did the interest for calcite specifically, when did you know, okay, I like rocks, they're cool, the minerals are fantastic, but let's stick with calcite.
Okay. Well, an important thing I want to instill on anybody who wants to collect this, and which was instilled on me too, is that you need focus. And what I originally started was the area not too far from where I lived. You had to take a car. Had a lot of quarries with limestone. So in the limestone there was calcite, dolomite, fluorite, and then a couple of sulfides like galena, marcasite, pyrite, sphalerite, and obviously the calcite was the most collectible type of mineral. But I decided that I would collect all the carbonates. So calcite is calcium carbonate. Just like rhodochrosite is the manganese, and then malachite. You have copper in there as well, same like azurite. So I wanted to collect all the Strunz classification of the carbonates,
Oh,
and as I continued to do that, in the end, some of the minerals were so extremely rare, that I had like a tiny little sand grain type of mineral somewhere from Russia in a little plastic container, that I said, well, what am I doing here? This is not something I can work with. Uh, let's stop collecting carbonates and let's focus on the one that I like most. It was a tough choice. Do you love the colorful shapes of azurite with all the blues from everywhere? Do you love rhodochrosite? I mean, who doesn't love the beautiful red and pink color of rhodochrosite? But in the end, if I looked at what I had, it was mostly calcite. And from there on, I said, okay, that's going to be the focus for the rest of my life.
oh wow. And how old were you when you decided on that?
I must have been in my, uh, so that was after college. I would say somewhere in my mid 20s.
Oh, nice. Okay. That's a good start. Very cool. Um, you have some more slides. Just I'll leave you to the slides. You can speak.
Well, that's fine, right? What I wanted to say is, why are you kind of seeing this type of presentation? And this is a matrix that I put together, as I got a lot deeper into collecting, to say, okay, there's only so much I can do in a day. There's 24 hours, and we can all choose how we fill the 24 hours. But how do you do focus? And we'll probably talk about calcite, I assume, a little bit. Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, and just
Yeah. So
this
so
matrix
so
also.
I will show you how easily, if you collect calcite, that you can be distracted. But what I did here is I looked at what's important for me, and when do I want to do it. That's what I call the urgency, which you can see on the vertical axis. Whereas, how important are all these things? So I wrote down what I was doing, anything related to minerals and mineral collecting, and you can see all these things. To make a long story short, anything that's in the lower left at the bottom, and for the people that are not color inhibited, showing in red, these were things that I was doing, and that I decided, okay, that's no longer important for me, and no longer urgent to work on. If I ever have time, I will look at that, right? And you will see photography, I think, is one of them, because I have much better people like you to take care of that one than what I do. But what I love most is field collecting, and you will see that in the upper right,
Hmm.
the green one. I love to go out and I love to collect. And then secondly, with the calcites that I have, my emphasis is on the morphology. I will talk about that as well. I also document what I do, and then I present it. This is presenting as part of exactly what we're doing here, and I'm doing that through a process of learning, visiting collections, going in the field, going to shows, reading, processing, learning while I do that, processing the information, and then sharing, turning it back to other people in writing, lectures, presentations like we have today. So I accumulated a lot of ballast during all these years that I was busy with minerals, and my calcite balloon would no longer float; it would just, lay on the ground. So I was letting go of a lot of things that were fun to do, but that were in the end just pure ballast. And that's a
Hmm.
message too. As people are collecting, there's so many items that you want to think about and that you want to do and that look like fun, but in the end you dilute everything, and focus is still the most important type of thing that I want to do. So if you look in the upper right, my focus nowadays, and also I want to do something with my minerals. Them just sitting in a display case, that doesn't interest me. I want to do something. In this case, I want to measure the shapes. I want to do some crystallography. Maybe I'll bring them under UV light. But I want to do something with these minerals, write a story about it, but not just sitting on a shelf. So my current priorities are, whenever I can, I go field collecting. Um, and then I have a large amount of inventory. So I don't have a collection. And I'm in the process of turning whatever I have, curate it, unclutter it into a collection. How do I do that? I select the calcites or the crystals that I have by forms, and everything else I need to decollect.
Oh wow,
All right.
that's so. How
And
many pieces do you have to decollect?
uh, well, it's impossible to tell, but I may have around 80,000. If it's 70,000 or 80,000, it's an extremely large amount of material that I have collected.
That's
And
crazy.
the sizes are, micro mounts all the way to large cabinet type of specimens. Some of them are even larger, and I,
Wow.
I have equipment. I have equipment to reduce the size, saws,
Okay.
and drills and all that too that I need to work on.
And
And then go ahead.
yeah, how many of those, what percentage of those 80,000 pieces did you self-collect or buy or found where how landed in
I
your
think
collection?
I think 90% are self-collected
Okay,
materials.
okay, then it's okay because I was thinking, 80K pieces purchase, that's a bit that's a lot of money. But yeah, okay, that makes sense. How
Well,
often do you go out?
we can talk about the money. You know, calcite is cheap. I think 2 years ago, Chris Enfroto, who's also a YMCer,
Yep.
he had a micromount collection on calcite, and I think I purchased that he acquired from another collector, and I purchased 300 pieces from him. You know, for not a lot of money.
Okay.
And I'm going to see Chris pretty soon. You know, the YMC has an activity in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania,
True. Yeah.
where we're going to see Chris. So I'm going there, and I'm bringing with me two other YMCers
Oh,
to
nice.
go see him. So it's relatively easy to accumulate calcite, and we'll talk about that shortly. So what I'm currently doing is, with my huge inventory, is, you know, I'm cataloging, documenting. I'm trying to learn about crystallography. I'm going to do a little bit of exhibit, and we'll
Hmm.
get to that in a minute too. I give lectures, I publish, I write. I just got an award, second place in the Midwest Federation in the U.S. and fifth place in the U.S. overall. And then I
Oh,
also
wow.
visit collectors
Congratulations.
and museums. Yeah. So I
Where do
truly
you
love
write?
calcite.
Where do you write and where do you publish?
Um, I currently publish in regional newsletters.
Okay.
But my ambition is to get some articles in, you know, and I recommend everybody to subscribe to at least, you know, one good magazine, you know, like Lapis
Absolutely.
or Mineralogical Record or Rocks and Minerals. I mean, for me, not every edition is chock full with relevant information for me, but I have learned so much from these magazines. So I currently I am the editor and publisher for the Friends of Mineralogy, which is, you know, a national organization in the U.S. And for the regional chapter where I live, I'm the editor. So
Oh,
I do specimen spotlight, and it's not just a picture, but I tell the history of the specimen, why this is particular, what's interesting, what you can learn from it. So the article that recently won was about how to go about identification. Somebody gave me a little vial, and I thought it was sand from the beach, but it turns out it was a material called rust, which is a decomposed type of granite. And I was walking people through, as I looked at it, how would you be able to do this? And that was very much appreciated.
oh wow. Okay. Very
Yeah.
cool. Just a quick side note,
I
the tattoo
Go ahead.
is for people who know who that is, but the tattoo is on the arm of Anthony Stasson, a YMC member.
It's a
Was
YMC member, yes,
yeah.
Monsieur Stassin.
Yeah, yeah. It's one
I
of
w-
his favorite calcites, which he
yep.
now decided to sell actually. But it's a fantastic piece. I photographed it, and yeah, I know that.
Okay. Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, there's one YMCer even with a calcite tattoo. So exactly. Good. Yeah. By the way, you know, keep asking, and in the meantime, the people can answer this question, right?
Oh, sure. What animals can you name using the same letters? Okay, that's nothing for me.
And but what minerals can you make using this?
Well, calcite.
Sure. But you don't have to answer now. You know, we can do that later. That's a quiz. So so you wanted me to share a little bit, you know, what is to love about calcite, right?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And I have a brief presentation. I can talk about that for hours, and that's not the purpose here. Um, I There's a gentleman, Terry Heising, and he lives very nearby where I am, and he's a world-renowned calcite collector, and he's also very much involved with Rocks and Minerals magazine, where his wife is editor, but Terry is very active in that too. And he came up with the 4 C's of calcite. Calcite is common. It's wonderful in crystal forms. It has attractive colors, and it's very collectible. And I'm adding to it that it's cheap.
Yeah.
You can find it yourself, and you can buy large amounts of calcites, very, very cheap. So that's my fifth one. So some of the properties of calcite would actually not be in favor of collecting calcite. It's an annoying mineral to collect. It's brittle, it cleaves easily, and it has poor chemical resistance to acids. Think about cave formation. It dissolves the calcium carbonate and it deposits it somewhere else. Also, it has a very low hardness, about 2.5, and it can be scratched by a fingernail. There's the highest hardness is right down the z-axis if you have the basal faces on there too. So it's a material that easily dinks. Also, if you exhibit it, there is an optical property, called birefringence, the double refraction, and it makes that if you look through a clear piece of calcite, that it appears double. So when you look at a gorgeous gemmy type of specimen, it's kind of less gorgeous because depending on how the light and the background is, it kind of looks fuzzy as well. So that's all not in favor to do, but nevertheless, with its softness, brittleness, and the birefringence, it makes it very difficult to facet gems out of calcite. But yet, several of the artists do it quite successfully. And these are some of the calcite gems that I have, the largest ones, over 200 carats.
I love those. I love faceted calcite. It's just because of this birefringence. Yeah. The light is just like it's fantastic with all the colors. Also, you can see on this white gem, the bluish, the orange, all because of this effect. I love this.
Yeah. So this is kind of a little subset that I'm ready to let go, but it's certainly possible, but it's a very difficult material. Calcite is colorful, and it comes almost in all colors. Pure calcite is entirely colorless, or white, but then inclusions or substitutions of metals for the calcium in the crystal structure, can lead to other colors. And then you have different types of lusters. It could be vitreous or resinous. And then the transparency of calcite varies as well, from totally clear, water clear, to totally opaque. So it's kind of a mineral that likes to dress in many colors. As you can see here, in the center you have the famous Iceland spar. I don't know where this one came from. Maybe Mexico or Brazil. And by the way, some of the pictures that I'm showing here, these are not my calcites. Shortly we will get on the subject, but aesthetics are not important for me. I if you want to look through the way I look at a crystal, imagine it's black and white or it's gray. It has no colors. That's kind of virtually how I try to have people taking care of that one. And then I also said, that I currently don't have a collection. It's poorly documented. I have few pictures of what I have in my collection. And one of these days, I hope to improve on that one. Jeff Scoville has been to my home a couple of times, so I'm making a little bit of progress too.
Nice.
And then related to the color, calcite also has a property of phosphorescence and fluorescence when you radiate it with ultraviolet light. So what's not to like if you see items like that?
Yeah. Just a quick question. Do you also collect aragonite?
So that's a good question, right? Calcite is calcium carbonate,
Yes.
a very simple mineral. And calcium carbonate comes in three crystal structures. The most stable and the most abundant one being calcite. The second most abundant one and not so stable is aragonite. And when I was collecting carbonates, I was certainly into collecting the aragonites because of the chemical nature and the physical and chemical circumstances. They could crystallize, or they could end up being crystallized together in cave formations, or you can have an aragonite spray right next to a calcite crystal. They
wow.
would never grow. They will never grow the same because the chemical circumstances have to be different with pH and acidity and CO2 concentration and all that. But because they're the same chemical substance, they could be that way. So no, I do not collect. I no longer collect aragonite or any of the other varieties.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Um, the other C, is crystallography, right? And that's my personal current favorite feature of calcite, right? You know, every specimen, you know, presents a challenge to me. I call this my mineral Sudoku, right? So you have no clues, and you see all these forms and all these reflections, and I'm trying to find out, what is the mathematical definition of each of the form and the faces that you have on a crystal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's reported that calcite has over 300 known crystal forms, right? And
Wow.
almost nearly as many maybe probable forms, but there's a lot of argument about it, and I think that's more than any other material.
That's
uh,
that's
you know and
incredible.
and and here are a couple of examples of how these forms can manifestate themselves.
Very
you know
nice.
you you have prisms in the upper left. You have large pinacoid face in the top center. You have scanohedrons at the bottom, and then you have all kinds of blends going with it. And then if you look in the lower right, you can have phantoms
Yeah.
in there as well, where a scanohedron changed to a prism together with a rhombohedron. I mean, that is just absolutely amazing what calcite can do. And this
Definitely.
is, you know, this is the specimen of my dream, right? These are calcites from the copper mines in upstate Michigan in the Upper Peninsula, and the amount of forms on there is just mind-boggling. So that's currently what I try to do, and Charles Palacci, is one of my heroes in there because he wonderfully documented through a lot of drawings, all of these shapes and forms that we have.
Wow.
And then, as if all these base forms, are insufficient, calcite also has four twinning laws. So
Oh.
if you add four twinning laws to all these hundreds of forms, there is an unlimited amount of combinations that you can have. And
Wow.
twins of calcites are certainly favorites among collectors. If I go somewhere and people say, yeah, if I have a few calcites, many of them will gladly pick out a twin.
What are the four forms, the twin laws? I mean,
uh,
the twin
well
laws, the
the
four laws.
the four twin laws, are defined by the face that is in common from which the two crystals start to grow.
Oh, okay.
um, so you have crystals. The one in the center, is just a mirror, and the crystals are just turned around the mirror, and that's why the rhombohedrons are showing on top of each other. But then the other ones, can have like almost 60 degrees angles, 90-degree angles, or about 140-degree angles, and that's defined by the four twin laws. Which one is the plane that you base upon when the crystal starts to grow. You have some
Okay.
positive rhombohedrons, you have some negative rhombohedrons that come into play, and then you combine them with all the different shapes. Do you have a twin scalahedron? Do you have a twin prism like you have in the lower left? Do you have a twin rhombohedron like you see in the center? All of that is just amazing in calcite.
Mm-hmm. And what are they called, the four laws?
Well, they're just the four twin laws. You can you can name you can give calcite many names, right? So you can call like an angel's wing, you can call the butterfly, you can call the bishop hat, depending on the shapes of the twins as well. And calcite has an enormous historical uh, collection of names. By the way, it is demonstrated that calcite was the first mineral that was collected. In South Africa, they found an archaeological site that dates back to 100,000 years, where
Wow.
they found calcite rhombohedrons that were collected. And the definition for them as being collected was they had no utility.
Yeah.
Calcite is soft. There's nothing you can do with it. But the way they were organized, the way they were saved, what was wrapped around them, showed that somebody was collecting these calcite, these spars, these rhombohedrons. So that's the first and the oldest proof of mineral collecting. We don't know the purpose. Was it aesthetic? Did they have magical reasons? And you can imagine a clear spar, must be magical to them too. But calcite has been demonstrated to be one of the first minerals, that people collected. And by the way, a calcite has been identified on Mars too. I think that would make a wonderful field trip.
That's super cool. That's
Yeah.
so cool. Wow.
And then the habits. So I make a distinction, right? When I talk about forms, it's through the internal geometry, internal symmetries, rotation, through the structure. You have forms on calcite, but then calcite can grow in so many different habits, and I'm showing a couple of examples over here with cave calcite, sand calcite, helictites, anything like that too. So the habit is just how in the end it ends up being, whether it's multiple crystals or one crystal.
Mm-hmm.
The variety of calcite is just amazing. And what's not to love about this one? Did you see Fabian's
Yep.
collection, the
Yeah.
one in the upper left?
Yeah, I remember that. It's mind blowing.
Right.
It's very small, like
It
it's
is.
miniature, but it's just so it's fantastic. It's so
Yeah,
beautiful.
Fabian had it on exhibit at the Munich show in 2024 as well. That was the first time I saw it. And
True,
I'm
true.
I'm returning to the Munich show this year, and I will go see Gerard's and Fabian's collection. So I
Nice.
certainly look forward to that one. But
Definitely recommend both. Yeah, I've been to both.
right,
They're
right.
fantastic. Loved it.
And you see, these are all calcite.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, the habits are just amazing. And if that's not enough, you can have fossils with calcite in there too. So these are the famous bivalves from the Florida rock spit, uh, the former mine in USA, Florida. And some beautiful calcite crystals into this happens to be a specimen that I own.
yeah. Oh wow, it's beautiful.
But then we're not done yet, right? There is another tangent to collecting. You can have epimorphs and pseudomorphs. If you look
Mm.
at this amethyst on the left, there's nothing special to it. But if you flip it around, you get this weird kind of cup or a vase. And this is a quartz epimorph cast after the calcite that was there originally.
Wow.
So that's
Nice.
another thing you can collect, and here are a couple of examples. In the upper left, you have a quartz epimorph after calcite from China. In the lower left, you have calcite that's pseudomorph after gypsum. And then in the lower right, from South Africa, this is another epimorph of siderite after calcite as well.
Wait, after
And then
gypsum?
and then the one in the top are siderite epimorphs after calcite as well. So there's so many ways to collect calcite, and then there is a lot of literature about it as well. There are dedicated magazines. There was an International Calcite Collectors Association that was driven by my friend Mort Mitursky, and again, I promote that all your readers at least subscribe to one magazine, whether it's Lapis, Mineralogical Record, or your local Spanish or Italian magazine, but subscribe to it. You're going to learn so much, and at the same time, you support these magazines.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's very collectible, right? Mindat lists, and I think by now there's probably more, 32,000 localities where you can find calcite. So
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
you you can probably find it in your backyard. That's the beauty of calcite. It's
Mm-hmm.
very accessible to many people as well. And if you have some extra time, you can collect calcite on stamps.
So cool. Oh,
You
that's
know,
so cool.
yeah. Obviously, this does not require a lot of space, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's a benefit. But calcite certainly has been exhibited on many stamps, and I do have a collection of that as well. Oh, okay. I gotta hurry up. Okay. Yeah, I can talk about calcite forever, right? So you can imagine, right, that I would have an exhibit just about calcite for this, but in reality, I think I'm going to need more ambition, more funding,
Yeah.
and a little more confidence to realize all of this. So that was my introduction about calcite, right? Um, because we're talking about the young mineral collectors here, right? We all go through certain phases, and if most of your audience is probably going to be adolescent into moving into mature adults, right? So you're moving from peer pressure. Oh, I need to have this, and Joe has this, and Marie has that. I need to have it too. To starting to make your own decisions. You know, making your own way, or you want to keep up with the Joneses. You just want to copy and outdo what somebody else is doing. And I feel that I'm in a transition from being a mature adult and making my own decisions into a senior citizen, into pontificate. And I'm doing that right now. This is how it is, and this is how you should do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not yet, the grumpy old man.
Oh, so this is the AI generated image there.
Right,
Referring
right. I mean,
referring to the
yeah,
cool.
yep, yep. With the
Grumpy
fascination.
old man.
Good, yeah. So that's what's to love, about calcite.
Yeah.
And like I said, right, it's also very cheap. You can buy calcite just for a few euros, and if you want to go more expensive, you can do that as well. But you can build truly an outstanding miniature to small cabinet size of collection, for 1,000, 2,000 euros,
Yeah,
and all the habits,
definitely.
the colors, whatever. I mean, that's very easy to do, and I think honestly, pyrite, fluorite, you could do similar.
Mm-hmm.
All of these, have similar uh, collectible. I wouldn't call pyrite very colorful. I leave that to fluorite, but you can certainly do that as well. So it is possible, for $1,000 or $2,000 to get a good starter collection with a wide variety of shapes, colors, and what have you.
Definitely. Yeah, yeah. Calcite, and you can self-collect it also, as you
Yes.
told, 32,000 localities. That's cool. Yeah. Why shouldn't we love all calcite? That's a fantastic mineral. I also when I go through my catalog, on my I have like an Excel table with all the stuff. And when I go to the carbonates, it's mostly all calcite. I was a calcite collector once, not so very focused like you were. I was focused more on aesthetics and oh, cool shape, nice, love that.
Uh,
Now it's still like I focus on post-Soviet minerals, and calcite is just of course very common and it's beautiful. So I very love calcite.
well, yeah, I mean, the Dalnogorsk area has
Oh
produced some
yeah.
amazing specimens of calcite, and with a budget of 2,000 euros or dollars, that's not going to be enough for Dalnogorsk.
No, no. Which is why I love Delnagor so much. It's a surprises every time with something new, something. Yeah, this is it's a crazy shape. Wow, no, I'll take it. Yeah, another calcite to my Delnagor's collection.
No, that's a wonderful example of building a locality driven sub collection. So I mean,
Yeah,
for me,
yeah.
locality no longer matters. I'm not going after specific locality. I'm not going after color. It's purely about the shape, and I'll show you a couple of examples later on.
Yes. Um, how about the decollecting part? How are you planning on doing that? What's your method? I mean, it's 80,000 pieces. It's a lot. Do you do this on your own or do you have help?
Um, I think because of the specific, so the answer is yes and yes, but not together. Um, because of my specific way of looking at the specimens that I have, they're actually well, maybe we should jump into something that you and I worked on as well, right? And that will explain why it takes a little while, right?
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
so I learned, and I learned to appreciate that besides that there are different ways somebody can collect,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And I I think that's showing here. What I developed a quiz, and I can share that with the whole audience, and I can even put it online so we can get a profile
Yeah,
from all the YMCers.
absolutely. Let's
I
do that.
I
I'll put it
developed,
in the link in the description of this video.
yeah, yeah, and I think I have an update as well. But I discovered that I'm interested in the scientific value of my specimens, and that it's still a very personal type of passion. Now, you also completed the quiz, and you're more drawn to the aesthetic appeal of the specimens, still with a strong personal passion. And then your girlfriend, her passion was higher, which is beautiful for you, right? And also for the minerals, but she was also drawn to the aesthetic appeal of the process.
Yep.
So, so if I would engage help, and somebody would be drawn more to this quadrant or to this quadrant, they would properly throw out all the specimens that I have, because I'm not interested in the aesthetics of mineral. And they would say, yeah, they're all the same. It's all calcite. Throw it out, right? So getting help is difficult because of the way that I look at minerals, Matthew. Let me see if I can focus that back here. Okay, right. We're back here. Um, and do remember, right? Independent of that, we all approach it quite differently. We all
Hmm.
share that
Hmm.
same root, the love for the earth sciences. So as I go through my inventory to collection, I sort the specimens that I have that I never looked before, and I look at, is it attractive from form perspective? Can I spend some more time with this specimen trying to identify the forms? And sometimes it can take one day, sometimes it can take 3 weeks to do my Sudoku on a specific specimen. So any weird habits, non-reflective crystals, because I measure them goniometrically with reflected light, uh, or with calipers to measure the crystal faces. If I can't do that, then I don't keep the specimen, no matter how beautiful it may be from somebody else's perspective. So that's the first sorting, right? Is the form attractive? Is the form meaningful? And then all the duplicates that I have, they go away. I document the shapes. I take a picture, and I put them into a digital catalog. Everything else, gets decollected. And right. So this is my curate to collection Johann's 5Ds, right? So because I need to satisfy the people that like aesthetics, I need to put something on display.
Yep.
And I just purchased several high-end cabinets, the ones that you see at mineral shows.
Oh.
So I just purchased a few, and they're going to force me to select some aesthetic specimens, some representative specimens for me. Anything I don't put in there, I put in a drawer. And that gives access. If people show more interest than just looking at something nice, I can pull out the drawer and show more specifics, a sub collection, anything related to that one. And then I have what I call my D from Depot, the large inventory. This is material that I haven't processed yet, and that I'm trying to either put in a drawer or a display. But if it doesn't go there, I donate it or I sell it. And then everything else, goes in the dumpster. So these are my 5Ds of dispersal, decollecting. You can call it what I am. So I'm currently in the phase. I would say my depot right now is 97%, and I'm trying to bring that into display, drawer, and then everything else I will dispose of. So that's where the help comes in place, right? People can come to my house, or I can do what we call in the US a garage sale, and people can buy or get stuff from me. I also donate stuff for fundraising, for educational purposes. And people know it's not going to be bad stuff, right? It's not going to be Leverites, stuff nobody is interested in. Another fun thing I do is, and I'm just going to bring this one too. You can read it in the meanwhile. I break a lot of calcite, and I end up with a lot of cleavage romps. I bag them in a little plastic bag, and I put a label on it where it's from and that it's a cleavage rump, and I give it away for free at shows or to children. And to date, I think I've bagged over 5,000 small specimens that have gone to children, in the hope that it will spark a little bit of interest in minerals for them through this special shape of a calcite spar. And this image that I'm showing here, is going back to my mom. I picked up this broken calcite during one of our hikes in the Alps, and she told me, that's one ugly rock, right? And okay, being contrary as a rebellious teenager, I said, okay, well, if you find it ugly, I'm going to collect more of them, and that's how I stuck to calcite, right?
Wow.
So I'm sorting, and this is just a little bit of my inventory. I have my picking table, and picking tables are a mining term, right? When in the old days, the ore would be brought to the surface, and it would be mixed with rock, and then you would have children and women going and sorting through the rocks and pick out the ore that could be processed later, and that that was called a picking table. Now these specimens have been on my picking table for 7 years. I never made the time to work on them.
I can
And
pick
then
for you. I saw a nice calcite there. Yeah, this one. I'll pick it for you if you don't. You won't notice that it's gone.
no. I have so many. I would never notice. I know quite a few people that want to help me with my collection, and I think it's helping their collection, not my collection. And you can see the drawers that I have ready, and then I also built storage. It's not a pile of rocks or dirt anymore. Everything is in a box. And some of these boxes are over 45 years old. I put them in there. I never looked at them again, and they have moved many, many, many times.
Wow.
So that's my inventory. Anybody who comes in there, every item in the box has a label, or at least the box has a label, and it's documented. And then I build, I document what I have. One of the items is a digital list or a table or a database. In my case, it's Excel. So that's kind of an electronic repository. It acts and it simulates a little bit of a database, and I can give the template for free to any collector who wants to use it. It has hyperlinks in there to Mindat, anything related to that one. So the very few specimens that are worth keeping or valuable for selling, I put in there. And then every specimen gets, some of the older people may remember a gentleman by the name of Rock Courier.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, Google Rock Courier. He has done amazing things for the community, education-wise, traveled all over the world for collecting. He was a dealer and did amazing things. But one of the items that he instilled on me was to label every specimen with a lifesaver. And that's what you see in the lower left, right? Every specimen has a 4-letter digit code that links back to the database, and any picture I take also has this code. And
Oh.
I put it with water soluble adhesive on every specimen or on every container. If it's a micro mount or a little ampoule, I'll put it on the container as well. And then from that Excel database, I can create QR codes that I put on my boxes. So they're a lot smaller, but they can hold up to 128, 126 characters. So if you scan that with your smartphone, it will bring up the information that's on the QR code as well. So if I have a whole bunch of boxes, I just have to flash my smartphone in front of it, and I can immediately know what's in the box as well, going forward. So
Oh,
I can
nice.
share the how-to and all that information with any of the users. And then because I do have some big stuff, I use tools to make the items smaller. I have all this equipment at my house to bring items to the right size.
A few saws, yeah, some hammers, and one of the most important things, the clamp thing. I don't know how it's called. The pressure hydraulic press. That's how it's called.
Yeah. You could. I think in Europe they call it a Zuber.
Yeah, some they're super cool.
Yeah, it's a hydraulic trimmer, and mine is over 30 years old and has never been repaired and does an incredible job in trimming. But sometimes you can't do it because you don't know where the matrix is going to go. So that's where a saw comes in place. But some people don't like cut marks on their specimens. So everybody has a right to be picky. But these are some of my major equipment that if it's cell collected material and the matrix is very substantial, that I use to remove a lot of the matrix material.
Mm-hmm.
So that's in a nutshell, what I'm currently doing. What I'm going from my inventory to a collection. And I have so many items, and the way I do it, sometimes I research an item. I have a couple of speleothems. Well, how do they form here? What's a speleothem? What can I use as educational value to other people as well? So sometimes the specimen can be done in one day, and sometimes it can take 3 weeks to document just one specimen. Well, if I have 80,000, my lesson is that in my whole life, I will never be able to see all the specimens and handle them in the way that I want to. So then you make it easy. Any material that I collected in Germany at the Clara mine, a famous fluorite mine, okay, there's very few calcites in there, but it's very colorful. Well, they're all micromounts. I just pick up the box and I donate them to to the nearest micromount club, and they bring them to a micromount symposium, and everybody can be happy with them.
Great. Yeah. I love that you support the community like really passionately, and you're all about the knowledge, bringing the knowledge to the people and educating. That's I think a very important thing, and thank you for doing that.
I think it's an important item that, and you don't have to wait until you get older. 40% of my time that I spend on mineralogy is volunteering work. I'm a webmaster for one club. I'm an editor, publisher for another club. I'm a field trip coordinator for another club. I was president for a club. I had vice president functions. I'm chairperson for several committees in there, and then I still write and I give lectures as well. Volunteering for me is extremely essential. It's not about receiving anymore. For me, it's about giving, and it's perpetuating what my mentors, what people who went before me and who are still around, what they have done for me. I've
Hmm.
become a mentor. I've become a proponent uh, to bring you. I don't call them young mineral collectors. I call them beginning mineral collectors, because some people may be 60 years old, retired, and looking for a hobby.
Yeah,
So they could be beginning collectors as well. And uh, I do it on a very advanced level, but also at a very beginner's level. And volunteering, you don't have to wait to do that. I mean, it's such an amazing way to learn about people, to grow your network, to learn about what you collect by interacting. And it's very counterintuitive as a deeply introvert type of person to do that. But like I just showed you, there's other personalities out there, and if you want to connect with them, you got to bridge that.
yes. That's thank you so much for this, uh, for educating us, and for I love your perspective. It's very we can definitely see that you love the stuff that you're doing, that you love the hobby,
It,
love the minerals, and want to
it is, and I part of my collecting too, and if I go on too long, let me know, right? Exhibiting forces me to take maybe 100 specimens and drill them down to 10. Less is more, 10 specimens, which means that 90 specimens have to go. And even out of a display case, some specimens I may not retain because some people might be interested in obtaining them or buying them. So I exhibit. This is my exhibit from this year.
oh,
Art together with calcite. And I
beautiful.
think we have a YMC in the middle is a painting by Christopher Smith Duke
Okay, yeah,
that he made, and I combined each piece of artwork with a calcite that I have in my collection. So the artwork is not of my specimens,
yeah.
but the artwork is what I collected from the painters,
Hmm.
and then I put a specimen from the same mine that almost looks identical to the one that you have on the drawing as well. And many times paintings are ideal. They're like the old AI, right? A specimen never looks like that, but on a painting it always looks very good. And it's like the magic that you do with your photography. When I look at your images and I look at my specimen, like, I like the image better than my specimen, right? So you
Happens
do a wonderful
sometimes,
job
yeah.
too, with your photographing. So I do exhibit. This is a special exhibit where I was the premier exhibitor for calcite during a calcite themed mineral show. So that's wonderful to put it out. And then you get to meet some wonderful people. In the upper left is a person you probably know.
Julian Ralph.
Yep, right. I mean,
Very young,
his
both of you,
I,
both of you.
yes. This is 25 years ago with, with my shirt.
Yeah, the same shirt,
With my shirt. The person right next to it, as well,
of course. Jeff Scoville.
right? Good. In the lower left, the joy of bonding with people over minerals, and then in the lower right, this was when I was still president, and this is March Matula. She had a mineral named after her.
Oh
So
wow.
I've belonged to associations. I had one association where there were four members, not at the same time, that had a mineral named after them. And this is another association where I was president. And March, a mineral enthusiast, just like you and I, not a professional person, a homemaker, but her interests were minerals and micromounts. And we're the best people. I mean, there are thousands of us going in the field, collecting, looking at specimens way more than any mineralogist or geologist, and we find amazing things. And when we connect with professional people to identify the minerals, it's people like us at any age that can bring new minerals into the world and grow the collection. So here's Marge is cutting the cake for a 50-year celebration of the club where I was president. So it's absolutely amazing going out and meeting and connecting with people that you can do. And
Oh,
here's the example of what I was talking about. I take my calcite ROMs, I put them in plastic bags, and then I give them out for free. And then I get these wonderful letters
oh, that's so sweet.
from the kids, what they do. So this is something you can do as well, as early on. Whatever you collect in the field, and it's not trash,
Yeah.
save it, add a little value by adding a label, and make it available to children. I don't know how we're doing on time, but I I only
Yeah.
have one display. I only have one display case in my home,
Well,
and that's my top 10 calcite cabinet.
let's go through it.
Okay, so why are there 10 calcites in the cabinet? And if you count, you're not going to find 10, but that's another story. There there's there are uh, two that are not showing in the cabinet, but there are six basic forms of calcite. The prism and
Oh.
pinacoid are open-ended forms. Then you have the scalenohedron, you have the rhombohedron, you have the dipyramid, which is currently somewhere in one of my boxes, and then there is also the dihexagonal prism. So that's the six basic forms of calcite. And then
Yeah.
how many twin laws are there?
4.
Okay, 6 plus 4.
10.
That's exactly what it is. So this is my top 10 cabinet with
Oh.
with a calcite crystal, each representing one of these 10 features, either the form or the twin laws.
Oh, that's cool. That's a great idea. I love that.
So if I ever go to the old collector's house and I have a little room, maybe these are the specimens that I do. But if you ask me which specimen is the best, it's almost like if you have a fire in your house and you need to run away, which one would you take with you? It would certainly be one out of this cabin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're beautiful. I love them.
Yeah. So that's these are the specimens, and I have a couple of magnifications, but back to you.
Fantastic. Well, that was a lot of calcite information. Very cool. Very focused also. We haven't talked about something that in detail on this show yet, but this is the first. This is nice. So as a closing question, just to sum up, what are your um, key points, key message to young mineral collectors, to the YMC, to the world?
Um, that's a wonderful question, right? And I would say, first of all, from my perspective too, field collecting is so amazing. And okay, you can go collecting literally in the field, a road cut, maybe a quarry if you combine with a club or so, and then the other collecting could be, at shows. But it's the thrill of the hunt, to find that one specimen that clicks with you and makes the connection. And you can do that at a show, and you can do that in the field. And from my perspective, combine the scientific but also the social, dimensions that come with the hobby. And I try to document both, right? The friendships that you build. And I believe that, sharing knowledge and field experience, it enriches everybody. And collecting is a never-ending quest, right? It's somewhere so intrinsically human. But I would say, just start somewhere. Keep learning. Start with curiosity, not with money. Um, don't be afraid, to collect small pieces, even broken pieces, even oddities, right? If that's what you can afford, do it. Every collector, every winner was once a beginner, right? We all learn as we go. Join a local club, right? Their skill, the camaraderie, access to information, to field trips, it's just invaluable. And become active in your metallurgical community, not just virtual, but volunteer some of the skills, that you have. Also subscribe to one of your local or global magazines, because they're amazing source of knowledge, that can
Absolutely.
help broaden your horizon, that you may not think of. If you have specimens, label everything. A specimen without a label is just a rock.
True.
And
Very
and
important.
and and you'll forget what it is. Ask questions. Talk to dealers. Talk to vendors. Talk to old timers. Talk to speakers at the club to learn more, to give you focus. And these people really love to share. What they have, and I hope to be an example. Also, eventually try to find focus. Um, you know, Over time, try to find your niche. It's okay if you say, I just want to have a cabinet with beautiful colors, and it's a tourmaline and a naturite and a rhodochrosite and what have you. But in the end, try to have focus, because I think once you get direction, you get a little more satisfaction of what you do. And then handle your minerals with care, particularly with calcite, right? Learn how to clean, how to store, how to display your minerals safely as well. If you collect quartz, okay, you can be a little more brute, but some minerals are quite delicate, and you need to learn about that. And very important, like you saw with my mountain of materials, start decollecting now. If you go in the field, don't take too much. If you go to a show, d- don't be encouraged to buy too much.
Hmm.
Less is more. And then, finally, I would say, don't be afraid to make mistakes. We all do, and that's how we grow. If we break stuff or we ended up buying stuff that we later regret, that's part of learning. That's part of life. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. It
Wonderful.
Collecting minerals is a wonderful world with wonderful people, and you're one of them. Thank you so much, for doing these interviews.
Thank you so much. These are fantastic. These are wonderful words. Thank you for your wise uh, tips and knowledge. It's it's a treasure. Thank you so much for this interview.
Certainly is, and I look forward to see you in person and shake your hands in Munich soon.
Yeah, right. Everyone, come to Munich and meet us in person. I'll see you there. Thank you so much.
Right,
All right.
you are very welcome. It was an honor to be on Under the Radar, and thank you so much for all you do for the community.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. It's an honor to be with you, who knows so much and is so wise. Thank you. Continue to do what you do and what you love. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Success to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for watching this episode of Under the Radar. You can check out today's guest through the links in the description below. Tune in next month for another episode and don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss any new uploads. Take care and we'll see you next time.